President Trump ran in 2016 as a populist, not a conservative, and that's why he won. Populism is popular. At its best, it's also positive, and that's what we argue for on this show. Positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community. Those were the themes of my book, Positive Populism. But President Trump needs to be careful. Some leading Democrats are trying to steal his winning populist message. Look at Elizabeth Warren. Yes, it's easy to knock her on her dubious claim of Native American ancestry. And by the way, President Trump literally just did that minutes ago on Twitter, if you're interested. But if you listen closely, she's basically running on the Trump message 2016. The populist bedrock of that platform was to make government deliver for working Americans, not the big donors and the big corporations. The focus was the middle class and working families. And now that's Elizabeth Warren's focus too.
The middle class in this country has been treated so unfairly. We will cut taxes for all working and middle-class households in America.
America's middle class is getting hollowed out.
What's happening to working families in this country? Why is the path getting rockier?
But the echoes go beyond the big picture. Look what Warren said about Washington's corruption when she spoke in Iowa last week.
We need to change the rules in Washington. Yes. And it's about money in politics. It's about the influence of money. I have the biggest anti-corruption proposals since Watergate. Yes. Yes. How about we block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington, you think?
So I think she needs the biggest throat lozenge, to be honest. Anyway, great idea about the revolving door, but where have you heard that before? Oh, right, in 2016. Wasn't there something about draining the swamp, fighting big money, and, yes, blocking the revolving door?
All of that money that's going to Hillary and Jeb and Scott and Marco and all of them, the people that are putting up that money it's like puppets. A 5-year ban on lobbying by executive branch and congressional officials. They're not going to be too happy. A lifetime ban on government officials lobbying for a foreign government.
Now, that was unusual for a Republican candidate, and so was what Donald Trump said about student loan debt and health care.
We will lower the cost of college and solve the student loan crisis.
Universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now.
Wow, cutting student debt, health care that takes care of everybody. That 2016 candidate sounds uncannily similar to this 2020 candidate.
We pretty much believe 2/3, 3/4 of us want to see kids get some relief from student loan debt, want to see affordable health care and health care where you can't cut people out with pre-existing conditions.
Now, I suppose imitation is the highest form of flattery, and Warren agrees with Trump on the need for infrastructure spending, too.
Our roads are bad, our schools are bad, our highways, our tunnels, our bridges are falling down. You see those reports, they're dangerous, many of them. So we're going to get our infrastructure taken care of. It's going to be in jobs, but we have to do it for our country.
What's happened to federal help for infrastructure? Where's all that new money that was promised for infrastructure that would help us in building more roads, that would help us in building more mass transit, that would help us in dealing with our traffic congestion?
Good question. What did happen to the infrastructure plan? But this political odd couple even seemed to agree on trade and China.
I'm going to instruct my Treasury Secretary to label China a currency manipulator, the greatest in the world. Any country that devalues their currency in order to take unfair advantage of the United States and all of its companies who can't compete will face tariffs and taxes to stop the cheating.
They look the other way as China manipulated its currency to advance its own interests and undercut work done right here in America. China has weaponized its economy without loosening its domestic political constraints.
Sounds like somebody went to Trump University. Look, we could go on all night, but I suspect that is quite enough Elizabeth Warren for all of you. And we're certainly not endorsing her. In fact, many of her actual policies would be disastrous for working Americans. It's also true that many of Donald Trump's populist promises have been delivered. Top of the list, of course, is jobs and the economy. The poverty rate is at its lowest point in a decade, not by accident, but because of actual policy like deregulation and tax cuts. Over 4 million jobs have been created since Donald Trump took office, with the lowest unemployment in half a century and earnings rising at the fastest rate in a decade, not by chance, but by policies that boosted business confidence and encouraged the hiring of American workers. And the clearest way of all in which President Trump has delivered his populist promise for exactly the people he prioritized. Manufacturing industry has boomed after suffering for years. Over 400,000 manufacturing jobs have been added under President Trump, compared to a net loss of over 200,000 under the 8 years of President Obama. Last year was America's best manufacturing performance since 1997, since before China joined the World Trade Organization and sucked all those jobs away. And beyond the economy, and despite the endless claims of the elitist establishment that the swamp is not being drained, the president did follow through there as well. He signed an executive order banning administration officials from lobbying on behalf of a foreign government and put a 5-year ban on executive branch officials lobbying the government after they leave office. But to stop the Democrats turning populism into their winning message in 2020, President Trump needs to reclaim the mantle, and he's got a perfect opportunity in just a couple of weeks' time. Mr. President, here's how you can renew your populist revolution in your State of the Union address with 5 positive promises that will help working Americans. 1, on jobs. Fight the threat of automation by guaranteeing retraining for every worker who needs it. That means boosting your National Council for the American Worker, which helps prepare Americans for the needs of the future workforce. Under this effort, led by Ivanka Trump, over 100 companies have promised to reskill a total of over 4.3 million workers. That is a great start, but you can make much more of it. 2, give us that massive infrastructure program you promised. Make a pledge that by 2030, America, not China, will have the world's most modern systems for transportation, communication, and energy. 3, rebuild America's struggling neighborhoods too, whether urban, suburban, or rural. You've already established a White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council. You've got a plan for opportunity zones. These can be the vehicles for a real transformation that helps exactly the people who backed you in 2016. 4, on healthcare, you promised to take care of everyone. And then the ideological nitwits in Congress took you off course. Trust your instincts. Work with Congress to deliver guaranteed health care for every American. And 5th, keep draining that swamp with a move that every American will cheer. Ban foreign government lobbying. Foreign governments have embassies. They have ambassadors. Why the hell should they be allowed to use swampy lobbyists too? And why the hell should members of Congress and their staffs be allowed to deal with them? 5 populist promises that will show you're putting working Americans first. Don't let Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats steal your winning message. We know that their brand of populism will set the country back. But, Mr. President, you've got to show how your version can move America forward. Tell me what you think of all that at Steve Hilton X and at NextRevFNC.